In chess, some games can be fierce. These are considered some of the most difficult positions to play. And there are other times when we obtain a draw from games that we should have won, from winnable positions. And here black has two main choices: rook to a1 or pawn to g2. So what happens in this game? Black plays the rook to a1. And white's response is bishop to f5, with the idea of pushing the d-pawn to the queening square. But it's not that easy. Black is making it difficult for white by creating another threat. What is that threat? Well, queen f6 pins the bishop to the knight. Should the bishop move, then black will checkmate white on f2. By keeping the pressure on the king that is on g1, the queen on f4 gets overloaded with three tasks: defend the knight and bishop, defend the king, and defend the pawn. Check. Pawn to d7, and if the bishop is captured, then the pawn will promote to queen, checking the king. Rook to d5. Again, in order to avoid being checkmated, the king steps to g2, preparing to step to h3 and h4. Check. Check. And now pawn to g2 is tricky and dangerous for white. Now let's see how the game plays out. It has been said that in chess, attacking moves are the best moves. Queen f6 check, and after queen g6, the queen trade takes place and we arrived at a drawn king and pawn ending. Now surely there must be a strategy for playing these difficult positions. Perhaps there is someone who can provide us with an answer. Let's go ask the Chess Wishmaster.
those positions in which a player strives to complicate the game. Sometimes we play chess at a level much lower than our actual ability. Mistakes are waiting to happen. They're all over the board. Let me give you a formula to use when facing these intense tactical positions. Number one, you can look to simplify by trading pieces or offering trades. You can complicate the game by applying more pressure to your opponent's pieces. And lastly, persistently improve the position of your pieces.
Now let's examine this game where Black's king is in a very tense position in spite of the rook. The king is stuck on h8. White tries vehemently to checkmate the king on h8. However, Black does not fail to complicate matters for White, constantly looking for checks. Of course, Black keeps the rook far out of harm's way. Okay, fast forwarding past several moves until we reach this position. Check to the king. And after king to f7, Black sacrifices the rook. In this game's continuation, Black makes a blunder or a mistake by capturing the rook on d1 when the actual move was to play the rook to f1. So after rook takes d1 check, king takes d1, and now rook captures on f5, and White just simply recaptures on f5, and we now have a drawn king and pawn versus king ending, which is drawn. Final game. Annihilation of defense. Okay, by now you're familiar with e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, cd4, knight captures on d4, knight f6, knight c3, followed by a6. Now this covers the b5 square, bishop e2, the positional bishop to e2, followed by two main moves, either pawn to e5, kicking the knight, or simply the pawn goes to e6. But this is the continuation after kicking the knight. A lot of players may have a problem with this continuation due to the control that White has over the d5 square. So after the following moves, players have been choosing to play the move pawn to e6. But is there a problem with pawn to e6? Let's see. And from here, white continues the kingside pawn assault. The idea of playing the pawn to f5 is to exploit the light squares around the opponent's king. Now the idea of pushing the pawn to g5 is to kick black's kingside protector, which is the knight. And after the knight is kicked away from the defense of the king, then a sacrifice is made on e6. And white continues the attack on the light squares. Rook to e7. And now white makes another sacrifice on d5. What is the point in this move? Well, queen recaptures on d5, delivering check to the king. My question to you is, do you believe that black can survive this position after two sacrifices? If you want to see whether black can survive this position or not, stay tuned for my next video, the Chess Wishmaster Part 2.